All right, the blues of the journalists predicting 2014. We always do it. It's just looking ahead, really, to this year. And there are some extremely worrying indications for 2014. At a Toronto level, Rob Ford announced his candidature on the first day possible this morning, making it abundantly clear that he will be part of the race to lead Canada's largest city. Rob Ford is ready to fight. And here's a taste of what he said today.
I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, is watching every dime that's being spent. You've seen what happened when they stripped my powers. All of a sudden they start spending like drunken sailors.
Oh, drunken soldiers, maybe. Ford has been appallingly treated by a shameless media, but he has also invited attacks due to his absurd behaviour. The problem with his candidature is that it will remove the focus from issues to personalities, and that will also make it all the more difficult for a mainstream Conservative to become mayor. If you doubt the media's bias, take a look at the terribly brave John Barber from the Globe and Mail from a few years ago.
Socialist mayor, because you may be a socialist reporter, because I don't agree with that, John. John, the bottom line
what
is
true. What you're saying now or what you're saying then? What's
Pam
the truth?
McConnell and John Fillion. See, sure, walk away. It's the easiest way to do it. Pam McConnell and John Fillion, from what I said, okay?
Answer the question.
All right,
just call him a fat.
Yeah, why do you say that? Well, yes, you did. You
call him a fat.
You did. You said that.
Barbara,
you did that.
Why did you? I just heard you.
That's right. You said you. Okay. What did you say? What did you just say?
You just called him a fat.
You called me a fat.
Why did you call him a
You
fat?
did. You just did.
Why did you just
do that? Are you gonna lie about
Barbara?
that? Are you gonna lie about that,
Why did
Barbara?
you just
Are you
call
gonna
him a
lie
fat?
about that? You said that.
You just called
said
him
that
a
with a
fat.
written.
Why did you do that?
Where are you
I'd
going,
like to know
John?
your.
It's like Plato and Aristotle, isn't it? At the federal level, the news of Prime Minister Harper's death, well, they're grossly exaggerated, aren't they? Liberal journalists go on and on about the walk in the snow prediction and promise Harper's resignation, but what they refuse to say is that he is one of the most successful Canadian politicians of modern history, and that's true. He took a new party whose predecessor had been moribund and turned it into the natural party of government. I doubt he will leave, but if he does, it will be on a point of triumph and not defeat. His rival, Justin Trudeau, on the other hand, is the darling of the chattering classes, but even with the best media money can buy, he is still finding it impossible to break through beyond urban Toronto and young women voters. Frankly, the Tories had a terrible year, yet the Liberals did not come even close to exploiting those Conservative failures. Internationally, 2014 will tell us whether Putin and Russia can maintain their rising influence in the world. And if they do so, and it's very likely, the place of Obama's United States will continue to deflate. In Europe and the Middle East, Moscow is now perceived as being more powerful and legitimate than it was even when the Soviets were strong, meaning a fundamental change of the balance of power. And the other emerging superpower, of course, China, has enormous political and economic sway over Africa, and there is every sign that this will increase in this coming year. There is absolutely nothing positive about that. In the Middle East, I'd be stunned if Israel didn't take direct action in one form or another against Iran's nuclear ambitions. This will not, however, change the plight of the Palestinians in any way, and it's ironic that the misleadingly named Arab Spring destabilized rather than liberated the region and led to a digression from the Palestine issue. Britain's economy will begin to dominate Europe. Spain, as well as Greece, will continue to be reliant on others. And the Germans will surely begin to question their propping up of nations in the European community that routinely abuse them. Hollywood has promised more biblical movies, though, not because it has found faith, but because it wants dollars. One of the first will be an epic about Noah. But in Hollywood's version, Noah is the world's first environmentalist, and God is angry with the world, not because it's immoral and decadent, because humanity doesn't, well, recycle with sufficient enthusiasm.
No. What did he say?
He's going to destroy the world.
Fear not, though. As you just saw, the part went in the end to Russell Crowe and not to David Suzuki.
If you're going to register as mayor, stay as mayor, and I'll go 105 debates. So you know what? Let's have 200 debates this time. If they can keep up, I encourage everyone to run. And whoever's out there, come down, run for school trustee, run for councillor, and run for mayor. And I will go toe-to-toe with anybody all the time. I'll do 3 debates like I did with Mr. Smitherman, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to get my record on the floor and let people decide for themselves.
What do you think when the 15th round you're coming out?
Yo, Adrian! I did it!
Hasn't he lost weight? That gym work. Rob Ford is looking very buff. Ray Hurd, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm fine. As a student of history like you, I'd like to remind our viewers, especially the young ones who learn about it, this year is the 100th anniversary of the war that was supposed to end all wars, World War I.
And you fought valiantly in that particular conflict, didn't you?
Yes, and so did my grandfather. And briefly, Michael, it made Canada a nation at the Battle of Ypres, and I'm sure during the rest of the year you and I might get into some of this.
Yeah, and we will commemorate that in this country, and we really should do. Now, let's talk about, well, there's so many issues. Let's begin with the local one in Toronto of Rob Ford. Good idea that he's going to run?
I think he'll be re-elected.
Really?
He's running against the media, as he and his brother made clear today. There are a lot of what we call ordinary Canadians, which is an elitist idea. They're actually extraordinary Canadians. I think Ford will be re-elected if it's more than a two-way race. If it's a two-way race between him and Olivia Chow, the tax and spend socialist, she may win. If there are 3 serious candidates or 4 serious ones, I think Ford's going to win. And I think we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he stopped his bad ways. I believe him. He looks better.
Yeah.
He sounds a bit weird still, but so does Justin Trudeau.
Well, let's talk about Justin Trudeau, because he is the darling of those people who are meant to shape and influence society. But it was a bloody awful year for the Tories. A lot of things went wrong, but still, it's close to neck and neck. And although Trudeau has a certain appeal with some pretty empty-headed people, he's not breaking through in the West, in Quebec, in the areas where he has. He'll pick up seats, but I don't think enough.
Well, I think in your monologue, you might have mentioned the other person, Mulcair. Don't underrate this guy, Mulcair. He's not really a socialist.
No, he's a liberal.
He was a conservative. His boss, Charest, was a conservative. In Quebec, a liberal is often a conservative. That's another matter.
He's bright and he's able, but you don't have to be bright and able.
But he is focused on the Senate scandal. He's been very good. Don't underrate him, because I honestly believe that Stephen Harper will decide not to run again. And the evidence comes from Jason Kenney, Jim Prentice, various other candidates surprised me, but they're talking as though they know something you and I don't know. Harper may quit while the going is good.
You've covered international affairs extensively. This is a vitally important year for Israel in its relationship, lack of, with Iran. If they're going to do anything about Iran's nuclear ambitions, surely it has to be this year.
Well, yes, but the problem is Israel, whether we like it or not, and I'm more pro-Israeli than any other country except Canada. The problem is Israel is a client state of the United States of America, whether we like it or not, and John Kerry, the Secretary of State, and Obama, I think, have the power to dissuade the Israelis from doing it. However, there may be a side deal with the Americans and Saudi Arabia. The Saudis hate the Iranians or the Persians, and there may be a side deal to scream and complain if Israel does it, but privately to agree to let Israel do it if they do.
Ray,
That's one of the questions.
I think for some time Saudi Arabia and Egypt have made it quite clear that if Israel take out their common enemy of Iran, they might complain internationally, but privately they'll say, well done.
But the other story, there's an Olympic Games starting very soon in the Soviet Union. It's not clear there's going to be enough snow. That's one problem. The bigger problem is there have been 2 terrorist suicide attacks on Russia. And I will predict that this will be more a year of terrorism and holy war between various
Not enough snow in Russia. If only you'd told Napoleon or Hitler that, things would have been different. Hey, Ray, always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.